Hey, what's up guys? Welcome to my second Pygame tutorial. So in this tutorial I'm going to be showing you guys pretty much how to make a blank template. Basically all it's going to be is opening up a window using Pygame. And this is really important because you are going to have to open up a window in every video game or program that you make using Pygame. So let's go ahead and get started. Go to File, New Window. And the first thing that we need to do is import Pygame. So just up at the top, import Pygame. This is so we can access all of the modules and that Pygame has to offer. Now next, we want to call a function in Pygame called it's init, and that's the initialization function. And pretty much what this does is it will Python will automatically initialize all of the modules in Pygame for you that you need. So you don't have to do them manually. If you didn't use this, you'd have to initialize them manually. So this is a whole bunch easier. Saves you some time, some code. Next, we are going to create the screen object. So we're going to create a variable called screen, and this is pygame.display. Display.set. Nope, I didn't mean to hit up. Awesome. Okay. There we go. Set mode underscore between set and mode, and then parentheses. And this will create the window. And inside of these parentheses goes the size of the window. So if we put like 800, and it's a tuple, so 800, 600, it would make a window that's size 800 by 600. And it has to be a tuple, so you have to put another set of parentheses. And I find this kind of hard to read, and I don't really like it. I don't like having the double parentheses. So what I like to do is make some sort of variable called like screen size. It can be named whatever you want, but pretty much just something so that you know what the variable is or what it contains. And then have this contain the tuple of the size of your screen. And then you can go ahead and put screen size right in here, and now it's a lot easier to read, and it looks a lot nicer. Now, you obviously don't have to do it this way at all if you don't want to. It's just easier to read this way. Next, we are going to create the caption up at the top left of your window, where this, up here says Untitled, and Python Shell says Python Shell. And so that's done by pygame.display.set caption. And in the parentheses goes whatever you want. And usually this is going to be the name of the program or game that you're making. So it can just be name of game. Awesome. Whatever you want can go in there, really. Anything you can think of. Now, sorry. Now we're going to create a clock object. And this is going to help us keep track of the time. And pretty much it's used to manage how fast the clock ticks. Which we'll get to in a second. So we're just going to name the variable clock so it's easy to remember, or the object clock, and Pygame, I did, okay, .time.clock, and make sure that you capitalize the C in clock. And this will create a clock object. Pretty simple. Alright, so now we are going to get into the while loop. And what pretty much the while loop does is it's going to be an infinite loop, so it'll keep cycling forever until the user exits out of the program. And so the way we do that is we create a loop that's while true. And we're not actually going to end up, it's not going to be while true at the end. We'll change this part, the Boolean condition. It'll still pretty much be the same, but I'll show you what I mean in just a minute. But basically having a while true, it'll just loop through it forever, and that will be where most of your code will go, and it'll check for things in the while loop and then update the screen, and everything pretty much will go in here. So for pretty much what we're going to do now is we're going to check to see if the user has clicked the X, if the user has exited out of the program, and so the way we do that is we use pygame.event.get. And what this does is it returns everything. It returns a list of everything that the user did before, like while the while loop was cycling through the time before. pretty much it'll return a list of everything the user did. So what we want to do is for event in pygame.event.get, so this will cycle through the list that Python returns when you call the get function. Remember, it'll return a list, so this will cycle through the list of what the user has done. If event.type, now everything in this list will have a variable called type, and depending on what the user did, that'll be something different. And there's a whole bunch of different types, and one of them is pygame.quit. Quit is in all caps, and what this means is that the user clicked the X at the top. So if they click the X at the top, it'll have a type pygame.quit, and then it will execute what we want in this block, in this if code. So what we actually want is to be able to exit the while loop so that our program can shut down. And the way that we're going to do that is, let's go up here, and we're going to create a variable called exit. Not exit, because that's a keyword. We'll do loop exit, okay? And this loop exit is going to be a boolean, and it's going to contain true. It's going to be true. So instead of having true here, we're going to do while loop exit. And so this will be, right now, it's like just like saying while true, and it'll loop through it forever. But if we go down here, we can do loop exit equals false, so that the next time it cycles through, oops, sorry, let me capitalize that F. False. There, the next time it cycles through, this loop exit will be false, and then it'll exit the loop. So that's what this does. And you can also, this is what you use a lot to check to see if the user clicked something or if the user pressed a certain key. You would use a for loop. That's pretty much exactly like this, except the event.type, this comparison, it wouldn't be pygame.quit, it would be pygame. Something else, or keyboard.something. So just this type comparison Boolean condition here in this if statement would be different. And we'll get into that in later tutorials. Next, what we want to do in this loop is we want to fill the screen with a color. And the way we do that is screen.fill, and then in the parentheses goes a tuple with the RGB color code of our color. And what we're going to do, what's a lot easier, is very similar to what we did with the screen size here. We're actually going to create a variable that contains the tuple of the RGB color code. And so then we can just, so let's say we want black. We want the color black. The color code for black is 0, 0, 0. And if you know anything about RGB color code, well, if you don't, pretty much what it is this first number corresponds to how much red you want, the second number is green, and the third is blue. And the highest you can get up to is 255, so if we did white, it would be 255, 255, 255. Red would be, the brightest red would be 255, 0, 0. And you can also, if you made this like 100, it would just be a darker shade of red. And you can also, combine the different colors. So if you did put up red and then you put up this blue, it would be purple. And there's a whole bunch of different color combinations, and you can find RGB color codes for every color somewhere online. So you can just go ahead and search RGB color code and you'll find something online. So let's say we want to fill it with black. Now all we have to do is just black, and now we know that we are filling the screen with black. Whereas if we did like this, 0, 0, 0, obviously we know now that this is black because that's pretty easy to remember. But let's say you had a harder color like turquoise, and you don't know the RGB color code for turquoise off the top of your head. It would be a lot easier doing it with the variable name, so you know. Alright, next what we get to do is we get to use this clock object we created earlier to use this function called tick. And pretty much what this does is it sets the frames per second of your program, or FPS. And so if we put a 20 in here, this would limit it to 20 frames per second, which means that it would loop through this while loop 20 times each second, executing all the code 20 times each second. Now, it's not really important to know how this tick function works, but in case you want to, pretty much what it does is it sleeps until the next, so for 20, the next 1/20th of a second boundary. So let's say you had some variable x in here, it would sleep until the next 1 over x second of a second. So pretty much, once it sleeps till the next 1/20th of a second, it loops through, then sleeps next 1/20th of a second, and so it'll do that 20 times in 1 second, making your program 20 frames per second. Okay, so that's not really important how it does it. You just have to know that whatever number you put in here, if I put 50, it would be 50 frames per second. Next, the last thing we want to do now is update the screen with everything we've done. We do that by using this Pygame.display.flip, and you're going to be using this at the end of your while loop every time, because this will update the screen with everything that's happened previously in the while loop. Now, this is the last thing in the while loop, so we're going to go ahead and exit the while loop. And the last thing we want to do, so once the user clicks exit, and this loop exit will become false, and it will exit the while loop, we want to call Pygame.quit, and this will safely exit everything for you, close everything up for you, so you don't have to worry about errors or anything like that. Alright, so this is the blank template for a program using Pygame. So let's go ahead and save it. We can just save it as template, or Pygame template. So Pygame template. Save it. Go ahead and hit F5, and then there we go. We got our 800 by 600 window. It's filled with black. It says name of game, which is what we put up there. Go ahead and hit exit, and it'll close out nice for us. So there, you can go ahead and look at the code once again. Not too hard, and pretty much every program that you use in Pygame will build off of this basic template. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.